Welcome to the Abundant Life Center. It is August 10th, 2025, and we are here to celebrate another wonderful day and another summer day, and to learn the message and information that Arlene's going to share to us about the native words of wisdom. So I look forward to that a lot.
Words of wisdom, huh?
Yeah, I guess that's the meditation. Then the actual topic, it's Native American spirituality. But
Right.
yeah. Okay. So, and Arlene, for anyone that doesn't know, is a longtime member of the Abundant Life Center and has served as past chairperson of the board and has been involved in the Braided Way Path with Jana Gabar over the years, which is has a lot of basis in Native American spirituality, as well as other experiences in that spiritual line prior to that. So she comes with a wealth of resources to share with
Oh,
us.
thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah.
hope so. And you guys interrupt me and ask questions, and I want to leave it really open for discussion as much as we can, because I certainly don't have all the answers. In fact, I have more questions than I have answers. That's kind of the way I am in life, I think.
Well, that'll be good. We all like interacting. So thank you. So, prior to diving into your topic, I will light the God candle, the ceremony we do as a symbol of the one light in the world, designating spirit, and the name you use is welcome. And then we decided to do a trial on a centering piece. So in that, I invite you to close your eyes, relax into your chair, and just imagine a big, old-fashioned chest in front of you. You grasp the latch and the lock and gently open the lid. The chest is empty. Now picture all your worries, all your desires and frustrations, everything that keeps your mind busy, what you need to do, what you've been doing, and see yourself dropping them all into that empty chest. Just do one more check. Did you forget anything? So after it's all in there and you feel released, close the lid and turn around, leaving the chest behind you. And as you gaze out, you admire the wonderful view of the sea from the cliff you are standing on. You are fully present and relaxed. You can open your eyes.
Which part of the ocean, which part of the shore is our house?
I don't know. I think we need to get specific in the prelude on there so you know what you're looking at sea-wise. Maybe you climb a cliff overlooking the sea and then discover the chest. We'll work on it. Yeah. Okay. Um, and you know, one of the affirmations I've had is there's nothing I need to do, no place I need to go, and no problem I need to solve right now. Just being here is totally it. So, shall we say our beliefs together? They'll be displayed here momentarily on our screen. Our beliefs. Divine love is the source from which all of life flows. The direct experience of that ultimate source is available to all. All life is a unique expression of the divine to be revered. We co-create our world with the ultimate source and each other through consciousness. There is truth and wisdom in all spiritual paths. We choose the path of love. And we have an opening song, Born of the Elements. And we stay muted so we can sing out and enjoy it. Okay, thank you. And now we'll have a meditation. I believe it's a recorded meditation, but the focus is native words of wisdom meditations on life.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
Yes. Well, at this point, I think you are well introduced, Arlene. All you have to do is unmute yourself and take it away.
I
Okay.
was yabbering already. You know, Eric found us that, and I just think it is so exceptional. And
Yeah.
I was talking with him, and I said I would love to have that written down so I would have those names of those people, those leaders who put all that together. And do you know, somehow he found that for me and emailed it to me. I don't know quite if he found it out there in the world or if he wrote it or how he got it, but it was amazing. And I've got copy of that. So if anybody wants it, that's available. And Eric has it, and of course I have it. And so we can be happy to share it however we want to. So speaking of sharing, that's why I agreed to do this work today. But what has happened for me is a lot of my memories have come up of various circles that I've been in, and my dear friend Jana, who has passed and gone, and I miss her so, and the sharing that we had at their place up in Battleground, and they had built the sweat lodge that we shared, and they created this little place, and Johnny gave it his sister's name because sister was a drug counselor in a school, as was I, and she took a trip down to Florida or somewhere at the southern East Coast and was hit and killed in a car accident by a drunk driver. And so there was a lot of stuff about the lodge and Johnny and what he did and what he created and how he built the sweat lodge. The sweat lodge that he built was built into the earth. And so he dug out the earth and put a cover on it, and we gave him feedback about, oh, there's cold air coming in the back, and there's this and there's that. And then Jane and Johnny made a way to do men's and women's sweats together. And I had learned in my circle to think differently about the whole men and women issue. So for me to talk about Native American spirituality has a lot of those little tricks and barbs, and how it was taught to me and where it was taught, and the memories that I have are exceptional. So please stop me if I'm talking too much, or you guys share or ask questions or do whatever you want to do. But I thought I would open with first acknowledging the term Native American. And my friend John has this brain, and he'll question everything and deny everything. And he said, Native American. He says, I am a Native American. Do you know why I'm Native? I was born here. That makes me Native. And the people that you were talking about are Aboriginal Americans. And so I've been thinking about the Aborigines and the guys that, when I think of Aborigine, I think of Australia and the snakes and lizards and those kinds of creatures that crawl on the land, and the reptiles. And also when I think of spirituality, Native American spirituality, the question of spirituality and religion comes up. And for me, spirituality is personal, and it's inside me, and it's my spirit, and religion is out there in the world. and it's something that somebody told me how to be. But Native American spirituality, didn't somebody teach me that too? Well, I guess. So there's a whole kinds of little tricks and theories and stuff, and we can talk about as much of that as you want to today. Spirituality and religion is like spirituality for me is heart-centered, and it's me, and religion is out there in the world when somebody tries to tell me what I need to do and how I need to do it. And if I don't do it the way they're telling me to do it, I'll either go to hell and burn in fire, or go to jail, or get somehow hurt, or there'd be pain in that. But spirituality, I don't feel pain when I think of that. I think of being outdoors with the trees and the grass and the living things, the opening things, the growing things. Excuse me. So I have a whole lot of internal stuff that still cooks with that. And when I think of my studies, my personal studies, I started my work looking for something that was feminine in nature, because I was in the middle of a very serious, uncomfortable divorce. I was becoming a single mother, and I was owning my own house, my own life, my own self, my own person. And I wanted some support, and I wanted some female support. So I looked it up, and I found a group up on Mount Hood, and they were called Y East. Y East is the doorway to the East. And they had a 2-year program, and it was quite expensive and quite rich and quite special. And I studied with them, and we learned a lot. And with that, a lot of the native people, a few of the native people came and showed us how to do the sweat lodge. I was Don Moccasin, and there was Gloria. Most of those people, some of those people are no longer with us. They have passed on, and I miss them a lot. And then what I learned was I had already met Jana. Jana and I knew one another, and she had also done that same study, but she was like a year or two later, and Johnny did it, and our friend Scott Fisher had done that. And so a lot of people that I knew and loved and had partnered with. And then Jana and Johnny were buying that property up in Battleground, and they didn't know if they were going to buy it. And there'd been an alcoholic man and woman living in there, and there was this old broken down trailer, and they would find empty bottles of booze out in the woods, and they didn't know if they wanted it. There was all this stuff. And then their process of deciding and praying and being together, I got to play a small part in helping that decision be made. And they made that decision and built their home, and ended up building the Sweat Lodge and the Laurel Lodge. That was Johnny's sister's name, was Laurel, that he named that lodge after. And sometimes people would stay in that lodge, but we had a lot of circle in that lodge. And whenever we would gather, we would take food, and there'd be a lot of food. And there was stuff about leaving food or not leaving food, but there was big stuff about cleaning up after ourselves and not tracking mud in and keeping everything just right. And what I had learned about the Sweat Lodge from Don Moccasin was a little different from the Sweat Lodge that Johnny and Jana did. And Jana and Johnny created a different kind of thinking, and they created what they called the braided way. So the altar that they had fabric as well as earth braids that were different color, and it was braided because we were going to include not just the women, but the men and the women together. And the people that I had been studying with up on Mount Hood, we had separated the men from the women in a big way. And some of the thinking about that was had to do with the medicine wheel. And I guess that you guys have had a little bit of exploration with the medicine wheel. And what I learned was that women began their journey in the South Gate and men begin it in the North Gate. And the South is the place that is home and hearth, and women, it's easier to learn in the South, and men, it's easier to learn in the North. And I'm not sure about why, but the North Gate had to do with hunting and warriors and the buffalo, and women would go into what we called a moon lodge, and that was when there was a full moon. We would go into the sweat lodge together and come out with answers and directions and ideas and sharing, and we'd share that with the men, and we'd tell men where the buffalo were, and they'd go and hunt the buffalo, and they'd bring it back to us, and we'd skin it and tan the hide and prepare the meat and save the meat and cook the meat and do all that. So the whole difference was about the men and the women and where they were on the medicine wheel during their work. And most of that work was like inner work. So who am I, and who am I in relation to the world and the earth and my work? And so from my experience, we learned that women are like the void. We wore the skirt. We called it the hoop skirt. And the skirt on the ground collects the energy that comes up through the earth, like growing things. And we were close to the earth, and it was our job to hold the babies and to hug each other and to love each other and to prepare the food and to put on the Band-Aids when people would get hurt and to do those kinds of things. And it was the men's job to go hunting and to fight the wars and to kill each other. So the symbology of the feminine is the void, that empty space, and the men, it is the worker, and the sword and the gun and the arrow and the going into the world, a straight line. And with that, at that time in my life, I was learning some stuff about the straight line. There's nothing straight about anything. Everything is circle, everything is round. It starts in one place and it comes back and it ends up to be where it's supposed to be, right here in my heart on the earth. And it's a growing thing and it's a breathing thing. And that song that we did, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. We would be outside and we'd have our dresses on and we'd sing and dance to that. And that, I love that song, and that Eric found that for us. I don't know who the Crow women are that sang it in that song. I don't know anything about them, but I sure know about that song because we sang it and walked on it and prayed with it and did all that. So I'm kind of telling you a little bit about the medicine wheel and the women's work that for us began in the South Gate. And we had our 2-year program where we studied the medicine wheel. And with that, we were a lot different. Some of what Jana learned was different than what I learned. For example, we went from the South Gate, and we learned from the South Gate, where we learned about who we are and what it meant to be a woman and growing and how to pray and how to be on the earth and how to walk and how to breathe and how to honor and cherish. each other and the earth and the life and the air. And then we went to the West Gate, where we took what we had learned inside. And the West Gate is this going inside place. And for Jaina, the going inside place was going into the water. And her medicine animal in the West Gate was the whale. And she had stories about herself and the whale, and she would go to Hawaii and be with the turtles and be swimming and do all that and come. I wasn't like a water person. What my West Gate was the bear animal, that going into the cave where it's dark and there's nothing to hold on to. And I would have experience in my West Gate learning about who I am and how I walk in the earth. But my lessons were taught by bear and hers were by water. And so we didn't like argue about that or anything. We shared those differences a little bit. And my bear, the questions that I would ask would be, is that black bear or brown bear? And I was like, well, it was both brown bear and black bear. Bear's a bear. And this is what it does. It goes into the cave and it goes around in a circle. Do you know why it goes around in a circle before it lays down? To be sure there's no snakes under there that it's going to go to sleep on. And its job is to go to sleep in the cave and then come out. And bear goes into the cave, usually up in a mountain, and sometimes she can come out of the cave white. She goes in there either black or brown, but she comes out white because the snow is covered with ground. And she, while she's been in the cave, has given birth. There's a little bear cub that she's got to feed. And a lot of that is like feeding herself and her own little child part of herself, or that little bear cub that she's feeding, and she's got to find food and learn how to take care of herself. And that happens in the North Gate, you know, the finding the food and learning how to be in the world and taking all those lessons that we learned in the South Gate and in the West Gate up into the North. And then the East is like eagle medicine. And I think I've talked to you about eagle medicine before. So all those experiences had to do with the feminine part of it, and the men did something different. And so if we continue to talk to each other and share and learn rather than pushing each other's buttons and saying who's right and who's wrong and what's it all about, and is it a brown bear or a black bear? It doesn't matter. It's a bear, got 4 legs and fur and a big mouth, you know. And so a bear is a bear. So do you guys have anything you want to say about that? Any questions?
I do.
What? Who said that?
Why would the sunrise be the place of evil?
Where's evil?
I don't know why the sunrise would be the place of evil.
Well, you said the East Gate.
Eagle. The
Oh,
bird.
eagle, the bird, the big eagle that's 8
Oh,
wings
okay.
Not
Okay.
evil. No,
right.
no evil there.
Okay.
There's buffalo is up there, you know, and I think about buffalo medicine, and buffalo is wonderful animal, and each of those directions have different animals, but they're not always the same animal. Like Jaina's animal in the West Gate was different than the animal I had in my South Gate. Some people in the South Gate have a cat. Cat always lands on its feet. It always walks carefully and it does that. Or some have the deer. So it's like all about who you are, how you walk on the earth, and what you need and what you're learning and who can teach it to you and who's there for you. It's not and it's personal. It's not about your animal isn't the same as my animal, and it doesn't matter. So,
Well,
yeah.
Arlene, I have a question.
What is that?
Do you have this on group view, or can you just see yourself?
No, I can't see myself. What are you
But
asking?
no, I just
Now I
want to know,
can.
so how does everything you learned in your Native American teaching, how do you apply it in your life every day now? How does how does it inform your current existence?
Those are exceptional questions, and I'm glad you asked me that. My needs have changed since I've been in a wheelchair. I have to think about that. I think about it a lot. I First thing that happened was when I was diagnosed and was aware of my disability, getting in and out of the sweat lodge was complicated. And my friend Johnny Gabar they would do a mixed sweat. They'd have men in there, and the men would be kind and helpful, and they'd help me in and out of the lodge and hold on to me, but they'd be careful about touching me. It's like, so the experience of how I did that was different with being in my disability, in my wheelchair, now in my house, and a lot of it is different. I don't know if that answers your question. Can you think of something more specific about what I learned or what I needed? Or
Well, do you still call upon the bear or call upon your native knowledge to help you overcome all of
oh,
the
you bet I do.
roadblocks?
You bet I do. The picture that comes to my mind is a vision that I got when we were going in to the I can't remember if I think it was Westgate. It was Westgate where we were learning how to let go and just trust Mother Earth, trust Spirit, to know that I'm where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there. So I got to do a whole lot of that about trusting. And the vision that I had was I would go to this particular space up on a mountain that had a creek. Okay, and there was a creek there, and I would close my eyes and pray and meditate, and I was asking those questions. And what I saw was a leaf going down this white water. The water was the feminine energy. It's going back to the ocean, earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. So my place in that journey was always important. And I saw this little fairy girl surfing on a leaf going down this raging river of white water. I don't know how to surf. I'm not a water person. Jana was a water person. That's not me. Here I am on this leaf going down the white water, floating. And you know what? I'm smiling. I'm loving it. I'm going. I'm sailing. It's great. And and the water is going, and it's wonderful. A wonderful journey. So while it's fearful and kind of rugged and whitewater, it happens to be where I am, and what I'm learning and how to be safe and how you do this shit. That's what I worry about a lot. How do you do this shit? And I ask Great Spirit, and sometimes I get a dream, sometimes I get a vision, sometimes I get a goal or a picture of what I need or where I need to go, and remembering the journey that took me, like, not a little while, but a few years, and it was hard. While I was going around the medicine wheel, the kind of lessons I learned, the first lesson I learned, my father became sick and ended up dying. So the deathing of my father and my relationship with my brothers and those kinds of personal things were there. And then it was a couple years later that my mother died. So I lost both of my parents in that trip around the medicine wheel. I was so glad I had that. I was so glad I had those spirit animals. Other things that I had, I want to tell you about a story. We were going to go, this is when I was with the Wise people, and we had a women's circle. We had a couple women who had bought property in a house up on the top of the Cascades. I'm trying to remember the name of the town. I can't remember, but we had a circle up there, and the assignment was to don't bring food, bring your drum, bring something to sleep on outside the piece of plastic because it's likely to be cold and wet, and bring a sleeping bag. And, those are the kinds of tools that we had. Not me. I put in my bag an apple. I put in a smudge pot and some smudge. I put in some things I thought I'd need. And I kind of was breaking the law a little bit, not doing what I was supposed to be doing. So it was a secret thing. So I get up there, and then we all the first thing I had to do was I was worried about sleeping up there because that's in the mountains where there's rattlesnakes. I don't want a rattlesnake climbing in my sleeping bag with me. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I asked my friend, I have a friend whose name was Daryl Braveheart. Daryl and I used to go fishing and talking together. I asked Daryl, what do I do to keep a snake out of my sleeping bag? And Daryl told me, Arlene, you got to think about the snake. Think about the snake's belly is soft. A rattlesnake especially isn't like scratchy. It doesn't have stuff on its underside. It's soft. It doesn't want to go where anything is scratchy. So get a rope. He goes, don't get a cotton rope. Don't get one of those nylon ropes, but get one that's made out of fabric that is scratchy, like twine. I happen to have some twine. So I put it around the sleeping bag. The snake's not going to crawl over the rope. So I would try to learn lessons like that. I hope that I'm answering your question, Kay. I would try to learn the lessons based on where the issue is, and I would try to draw from what I'd learned about the earth and being on the earth, and then asking people that knew something is a big thing for what I did. And so my friend Daryl helped me with that a lot. I did get outside. I took some sticks. I put my plastic. I made a little tent. We weren't supposed to have a tent. I always found ways to break the rules enough that would work for me. So I made my own little tent by taking my plastic and sticks and putting it up. And I'm sleeping in a coyote den. So the first thing I got to do is watch out for coyotes. I'm listening for coyotes. They're not coming around because they know I'm there. So I tried to hang stuff of mine, like my earrings, in the tree. And I would tell them that I'm okay and I'm their friend. I would do this thing with the coyotes to try to be okay with them. In some of the medicine wheel work that I had done, coyote came to me as a medicine animal. I learned a lot about life. So sometime I'll tell you about coyote if you ever want to know about my experience with coyote. So there are lessons in each place, and the lessons are, what do I need to do? How am I going to do it? And in my situation now, a lot of my lessons are, what am I going to do about getting the help that I need? What about my physical therapy? What about fixing my yard? Right now, I got a big thing with the sprinkler in my backyard that's got to be fixed, and how to get, what do I need? And I've got a little savings account. I have a little bit of money. I own this condominium. My questions are, do I want to sell it? My friend John has been trying to talk me into moving to Kentucky to be with him. And I've been studying Kentucky. I don't want to move to Kentucky. I don't want to live there. I don't want to be there. It's not like I want to do Kentucky. Well, then don't do it. Well, okay, then what am I going to do? Well, I guess I'm going to stay here. So I kind of put away the idea of selling my condo and doing all that and being here. Well, what do I got to do to be? Well, I got to fix my stove. My oven is broken, and how to cook in the kitchen and how to have accessibility and how to ask for, like Eric has been really kind. He came and helped me put a ramp in the front yard, and I didn't know if we were going to build it or buy it. So we did some of that and bought one that was quite expensive, but he put it down for me and he did all that. And so getting help that I need, asking for the help that I need and getting it is like a big part of who I am, because I've always done this thing of doing my own thing my own way, fixing my own car, mowing my own yard. I had all these trees and I canned food, and people would come to my house and we canned tuna fish when the tuna would run, and we have like parties around that. And so doing stuff and being independent has always been a big part of me. And now I'm not very independent. And how to do this, I don't know. I'm learning a step at a time. I'm asking Great Spirit, I'm asking Eagle, I'm asking Buffalo, I'm asking Bear, how the hell do you do this? Go into the cave. What you do is you let go. I learned in the Westgate about letting go, being that little fairy, surfing on that leaf down that water and smiling and having a good time. I want to have a good time. I want to have fun. I want to be smiling, and I want to have lots of friends. So does that answer your question, Kay?
It does. Thank you.
I have
Thank
a
you.
question. You
Ask me.
you didn't describe much about the East Gate Eagle, but you described the others. Could you tell us what the concept there is?
You betcha. I'll tell you what I've learned about Eagle. Eagle medicine is like the spirit medicine. It is great spirit, and I had some of those same questions too when we were studying Eagle medicine, and I didn't understand it, and I didn't get it. And we were going, I forget what we were going to do. Oh, that was when we were getting ready to go up to the mountains, and I had done the thing about worrying about the snake and eagle. And I'm saying all these prayers about what is eagle, and I'm going to, that's when we still had GI Joes, and they'd moved over to Jansen Beach, and I'm going to go get some of that rope my friend Daryl told me to get to put around my sleeping bag. So that's where I'm headed, and I'm thinking about, I don't get eagle medicine, and there's this big old truck, big old 18-wheeler goes by with one of those eagles painted on the side. And I thought, oh, my heart just goes thump, 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 thump. It's like I thought that up, and there it was. And I just was in the middle of this big feeling that sometimes you get, and I forgot where I was going. And I got on the road, and I had my directions of how I was going to go to GI Joe's, because they had moved and I didn't know where they were. And I kind of said, oh shit, what do I do now? And so I took the next exit, and it didn't go to Jansen Beach, but it went to Delta Park. And it did this road that goes around, and guess where it ended up? Right in front of GI Joe's, right where I was going, right where I was supposed to be. And it was like magic. And I go, oh, I get goosebumps now when I'm telling you, oh, that's eagle medicine. Everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. I am where I'm supposed to be now, because I spent a lot of my life trying to think I need to be somebody somewhere else, be somebody else, doing something else. What do I want to do? No, you got to be right where you are now, and just kind of close your eyes and be there. Eagle flies in a circle, and eagles got these eyes that can just sees where the little mouse is. Eagles eat little mice. I don't know how they see those little mice with those little bitty eyes out there, but they do. And they get them, and they survive, and they live, and they build their nests way up in the tops of the highest trees, and they do all that. And there's certain kind of magic about it. In my opinion, the East Gate is where spirit joins the physical world, because it's a certain kind of magic that happens in that place. And that magic has to do with, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. What comes to me is what I'm supposed to be learning or growing from. It's not your fault if I'm not learning it. It's not anybody's fault. I gotta just let go. There's a certain kind of letting go that happens in the West Gate that has to do with trust and knowing Mother Earth is going to hold me, care for me, give me what I need, feed me, clothe me, protect me, and I am exactly where I need to be doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Does that answer that question, Linda?
Mhm.
Listening to you and to what you were saying, I just read a book that is called Secrets of Aboriginal Healing from Gary Holtz. And it's amazing. And this is the Australian Aboriginal who have been able to survive in very rough conditions for 60,000 years. And they didn't have Medicare or any
Yeah.
other health care, but they knew how the world works. And what I see is a parallel between these two uh, traditions. They are the same. They have the same values, the same focus. They call it a bit different. In these Aboriginals, they call God the big guy, and here they call it the Great Spirit. And yet they work continuously with the Great Spirit and the big guy. They are in the book. He explains how they are up to 50% in communication with a higher dimension, okay, which gives them information, which gives them what essentially indication of what they need to do and where they need to go. So it's pretty phenomenal that there is some sort of a universal wisdom that is applicable to all of us, and somehow we forgot that. Us Westerners, we did not have these traditions, and we kind of forgot or walked away from these beliefs and these traditions that maybe existed in ancient tribes in Europe as well.
I agree with you. I don't know how and why we walked away from that. For me, when I think personally how I walked away, it had to do with fear. It had to do with the balance of power between men and women. And women had to give up a big part of who they were to survive in the world. And we made compromises and we told lies to ourselves and to the world about who we were. And we put makeup on and we do this thing to try to please men so men will come and take care of us and feed us and build us a house and give us money and buy us a car and do whatever. And I had a big objection to all of that. What I learned in the Eastgate was we made masks. We in a circle made our own masks. I think at one time I had a group, we made masks with the group, some people at ALC. We made masks and we put feathers on it and made it into who we were. And then we went to this place we knew at the beach. And we walked on the beach and we took off our clothes. I love to take my clothes off on the beach and feel the wind and feel the air and feel the ocean breeze and feel the water on my feet. And our job was to learn something about who we were in that place. And I was walking around in this place that was really slippery, on these rocks that were slippery and dangerous, and oceans coming in and air's coming out, and I'm totally naked out there on the beach, and I got to learn something about who I am in that place. What I've learned, I've got my mask on, right? And what I learned was that Mother Earth had taken care of me. I don't know. I don't remember how old I was, 30 years old, maybe, when I'm doing this. And Mother Earth is taking care of me. She's kept me from hurting myself, killing somebody else, or whatever I needed to do. It was me who's walked around and put myself in slippery places, in danger. I endangered myself. And while I was doing that, Mother Earth was taking care of me, supporting me, feeding me, keeping me warm, keeping me healthy. So my relationship with myself really changed in that piece of my work. And I learned how to thank you, Mother, for feeding me, for caring for me, for keeping me warm, for keeping me safe, for keeping me alive, for giving me the skills to learn, to share, to get what I need, and to take care of myself, and to have friends who love me, and honor and respect. And I respect my friends, and I respect the earth, and I thank God for the rain, but not only the rain, the earthquakes. I think we got one coming. And I don't know why I think that. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm not. But anyway, that's what I think. Any more question about any of that? Does that answer your question?
Cheryl had her hand up. Yes,
Well,
Cheryl?
I've taken some notes on
Oh,
things that
good.
I have comments or questions about. If I could
You
share
betcha.
what I love about the Native American spirituality is their reverence for everything. Nothing is above anything else. It's like everything is equal and honored and revered and sacred. And the power and the spirit of the universe is in everything. And I'm so glad our New Thought principles adopted that from the world religions when our, founder was studying all of the things that they had in common. And, and I really believe that, but I love that Native Americans really live it. They live that everything has sacredness, and like you've taught us, they thank the buffalo for their gift of food and warmth and all the parts of the buffalo that they give because it's revered. And I love that about the Native Americans. I think they're so far advanced over us. And then that goes back to that term where you and John were discussing Aboriginal. Why not use indigenous? That's what we use here in North America. So I looked it up to see what the difference was. And it says indigenous comes from the Latin word indigena, which means sprung from the land or native. Therefore, using indigenous over Aboriginal reinforces land claims and encourages territory acknowledgements, a practice which links indigenous people to their land and respects their claim over it. And that apparently, according to this site, is why we use indigenous in North America versus Aboriginal, which is more Australian. And then in that meditation, they referred to Wakantanka, and I've never heard that word before, so I had to look that up. And as it showed, it's a Sioux term for Great Spirit. And I'm wondering if there's another term other than Great Spirit that other peoples or tribes used that meant the same kind of thing, that power in everything, that Wakantanka that the Sioux apparently had their own word for. Do you know if there's...
Don't know anymore. I'm sure there are. I studied with the native people from the Lakota Sioux, and I'd been to the reservation a number of times in South Dakota, and they do have different names, different stories, different lines, but the story is the same.
But that's the tribe that uses the Wakantanka, or the Lakota Dakota Sioux.
Well, in the Wakantanka, yes. The word that I love is a homatakwiasan. When I was a little girl, we watched the Lone Ranger, and they'd say how,
Yeah.
or it wasn't a how, is a ho. A ho. And and a ho doesn't mean I agree with you. It's acknowledgement of Great Spirit being who we all are, and what it all is in the earth, and all of creation, like the little birds, the crawling ones, the ones that don't have any legs, the ones that have fins, the ones that have feathers, the ones that have fur. All of that is part of that homotakwiasan, and it's another way to say all of my relations on this planet. And I try to remember to give thanks and all my relations. My friend John, who's bought this 100 and something acres out in Kentucky, he's having this big thing with his birds that are coming to him. And John has never been a bird guy. He's never been that kind of thinker, because he's always been, he came from Southern California. He lived and grew up on Catalina Island, money, selling, playing guitar, being the one in charge, being the one in control, and he'd be the one to write the set list. The set list is what song are we going to play when, and it'd be down at his feet, and he'd step on it. He'd be the one in control and in charge. And now all of a sudden he's not anymore. And the way that happened was on his back porch with these little birds. Then he's made friends with these birds, and I just cherish that and love that about him. He's got all these bird feeders going on, and you know what he does? He buys sugar and he makes juice, and he keeps juice on hand to feed the birds, and he has different nuts and seeds for different birds. The way that started was he had a blue jay that came and knocked on his window. And I told him that blue jay's hungry, and here's what you got to feed a blue jay. I told him about what to feed the blue jay. And you get peanuts, you get roasted peanut. Don't get the salted ones. They don't want any salt. And I would tell him what to feed him, and it all worked. And he had coyotes in his backyard, and the coyotes would come, and I told him about singing with the coyotes. And John, they're not going to sing your song. You got to listen to their song and sing their song with them, and then you'll join together. And he learned that, and he did it. And there was lessons he learned from the woodpecker. You know who Walter Lantz was? That he was a Woody Woodpecker cartoon guy. And he made the Woody Woodpecker cartoon, and there was a Chilly Willy the penguin. And he used to come to their house and have Thanksgiving dinner. And when John was a little boy, he'd bring him presents. And it was like little woodpecker pictures or something about the woodpecker. So anyway, this woodpecker that showed up for John learned how to ring John's doorbell. John put a doorbell on the back porch, which in my mind got 100 acres. Why put a doorbell on the back porch? It didn't make sense to me. That's the way John thinks. He's got this idea. He made this music for the doorbell. I don't know what the music is. I've never heard it. But this woodpecker learned how to not knock on the window like the blue jay did, but ring the doorbell. And the woodpecker's not eating bugs. He's eating a bird seed that got put out there for the woodpecker, for the blue jay, and for the other critters. So anyway, he's got this big family of birds. Every day he calls me up early in the morning, and he tells me who the birds are being eaten and what they're eating and how they're doing, and I love it. And I told him about how to sing with the coyote, and he did it. He called me one day, and he's so excited over the phone, and it happened. And it was like he had to listen to the coyotes, and I had to tell him there's a grandpa coyote, there's all the uncles, there's all the relatives and the relation. The kids are gonna want to sing, the kids are gonna. You don't listen to the kids. You got to listen for Grandpa Buffalo. He's the one that calls the tune. When I said call the tune, John understands what I'm talking about because he's the music guy. So he called the tune, and the buff and the coyote, he's all excited because him and I go, John, now you got to record that. Put a little drums, a little bass with it. You'll really have some music. He goes, but Arlene, he's listening to me all excited about that. He goes, Arlene. And finally I said, what? He goes, I can't get him to sing into the microphone. So that's the nature of our relationship. And I don't want to move to Kentucky for a whole lot of reasons. But anyway, I don't know why I'm telling you all these stories. It's fun.
So Cheryl, did you have additional things?
No,
Okay.
that was it. Thanks.
What, Ananda?
I'd like to hop back to Eric's question. You raised the question, why did we being humans, uh, sort of dropped that wonderful relationship with, immediate relationship with
Nature.
spirituality. I think it was agriculture. Uh, people attach themselves to a single piece of land, or a group attached
Mhm.
itself to a single piece of land, and then which they then had to defend. And when the population grew, because they had more food, more reliable food, then they had to have more land, and they bumped into others. And, we have the modern world as a result.
You
That's
know
Yes,
who
but
wrote a
basically it.
whole
I
book
agree
about
that
that? Is that who? I'm trying to think of his name. Ananda, and I read that book and I tried to get everybody to read it. I don't know who borrowed it. I don't know if you did, but that and he talks about that. He talked about coming through the ages and how we were before we were like humans, when we were, what do you call them? With hair all over our bodies, and
Or something.
yeah. And so, and how we grew into where we grew and how we are. And he also talked about what men and women did do to each other. And women, men and women, the men kind of turned into what in some of our mind's eyes is like predators, and women, and getting a woman and wanting to have sex and wanting to run and jump and play and doing this thing that doesn't have a whole lot to do with anything. And then women kind of compromise themselves and start putting lipstick on and wearing short skirts and high heels and doing the role that we played into getting the men to come and buy us a car, buy us a house, have babies with us, give us money, feed us, clothe us, and then we will tell you what color we want you to paint the house, and that kind of thing. I think that there was this thing that we did between men and women, Ananda, that had a lot to do with how we grew. It's different. I don't know any more than that. Just what I think about. I don't want to play that. I don't want to play that game.
I noticed Eric and then Paul, and just a quick thing, I think that all had to do with power, but we'll leave it there. Eric and then Paul.
no, Paul, go ahead.
Okay.
Well, you bring up something that gets me back to my childhood, actually. Uh, at one time, I remember, and I can't tell you the details anymore, but I remember that my sister and my parents had Indian names for us,
Hmm.
for both of us. But they were escaping from the rigid Christian Lutheran Church, or the Swedish Lutheran Church, and they did not dare to. With that's all the friends and people we had around us, and the relationships. They were deeply steeped in the Christian faith, one way or another, and I never did find that again. And it's intriguing what you've been telling us today. I could have, I guess, if we'd have been brave enough, we could have isolated ourselves or gone to a place where there were an Indian culture going, but they didn't. It was tough times, and we were making a living by serving the Christian people in our town. And I've been spending my whole life dodging the Christian religion. I'll have to admit it.
Yes.
But we never were able to. I just got to learn how to fake it so we could make it as Christians, but not being Christians. And I'm really thankful the time that I got in AA and we had a little more freedom to express ourselves, and and the spiritual experiences I had out of that. Let me at least find my own way if it wasn't some other system. But I still practice escapists from people who think I'm Christian when I'm not. And it's tricky. I got into a real conundrum with a lady I really liked. Her and her husband, he played in the orchestra and he died. And I went up to consult her one time after he died, and everything was going good till we ended our nice talk. That well, I'll be glad to see you in heaven, and be glad when we both get there and I can meet my husband and you too. And I says, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be there. And I just got a smart ass and I've been cut off, period. That woman won't even look at me.
Devil.
But here I was, I finally said, shit, I'm going to have to express what the hell I feel for a change. I just, instead of faking it. But I found out that I'm still faking it. I don't know how I could have practiced what you have, even though I was intrigued by it myself. I remember when I got into Boy Scouts, we had a little Indian culture going there, especially when on the campouts and around the fire, we had some Indian lore stuff that we would practice, and it was fun, practicing that. But we were all Christians, and we had to finally say our prayers to God and Jesus when we went to bed.
We never did all that. My brothers and I would walk to church, and my mom and dad wouldn't go to church. There's a big thing about going to church on Sunday, and they wouldn't go. And we'd go home, and my dad and mom would be fighting with each other, and my dad be telling everybody to go to hell. They would fight, and when somebody tells somebody to go to hell, that minute's on. It is on. It's like, uh-oh, And so all that would happen in my family growing up. And the way that my brothers and I dealt with that is we protected each other. We told lies for each other. Like, if you tell on me, I got this whole list of stuff on you, So we would play that, and my brothers built a fort, and they put a sign on the outside of the fort that said, "No girls allowed." And they somehow or another got some Playboy magazines, and they're in there reading Playboy magazines. And I never saw a Playboy magazine. I wanted to see one. I wanted to know what it was. And it seems like I talked them into letting me see one once, and I was like so offended. What is all that naked women's? I didn't like it. I didn't want it. But I was really mad about the no girls allowed thing. And that whole thing about boys were allowed and no girls were allowed. And then the thing about climbing a tree, there's a tree across the street, and they climbed it and they built a tree fort. That was another no girls allowed. And the way to get in and out of the tree was they hung a big old rope, and the rope was like this big around, and they tied a knot in the bottom and a couple knots, and they could either shinny up the tree or climb up the rope. And then to get out of the tree, you had to jump into the air, catch yourself on the rope, swing down, and drop. I wanted to go up the tree. Not a little bit, but I wanted to go a lot for a long time. And my brothers finally got me up the tree one day, and they pushed me up and pushed and pushed and pushed. And I got up in the tree. I was so happy. I'm the girl. So my job is to take care of my brothers and feed them and keep them out of trouble. I'm the oldest one and the smartest one and the only girl. So somehow all of that fell on me. And if somebody do something wrong, it'd be on me to make up the lie about how that happened or why it happened or something to protect everybody. And anyway, my brothers get me up in a tree, and I couldn't get down. and I wouldn't jump and land on the roof and swing and drop. I wouldn't do that. And my brothers can't eat. There's no lunch for anybody. I'm up in this tree fort all of the whole day long. I was mad at the world, and I don't remember how I finally got out of that tree. If my brothers helped me out, or if I didn't swing on the rope. I know I didn't. Maybe I figured out a way to shinny down. I don't know how I did it, but I figured out how to do it. And that was always kind of what I was about, is figuring out how to do it. And I always did, and it'd be me figuring out how to do it and how to stay out of trouble and make up the lies and do all this stuff.
So I had noticed Carol had her hand up. Carol, did you have
I'm
something?
sorry, Carol.
Well, like a lot of us, I was interested in the Indian culture too. And I used to get comic books with information called Indian Nation and how to make bows and arrows and stuff. And as I grew up, I continued to have that interest. And along the way, I met some Native Americans. One was in San Diego, and I knew he was a Native American. And I asked him one of those cliche questions. He said, "I don't know. I've never been on the res. I grew up in San Jose." And so he talked for a while, and then he gave me a book by his mother, who's a Pima Indian, and she talks about the Indians.
Oh, cool.
The
And
legends,
the legends
that trace the origin myths and development of the Pima, representing the Pitman folk, the coyotes, the roadrunner, and those who like to keep up with Southern Western. So if anyone would like to borrow this, I have that.
I'd love to look at it sometime.
The other one I have is the 13 original clan mothers, sharing the truth about ancient feminine wisdom tradition. This is given to me by Jamie Sams, who's a friend of mine, an artist, a gay woman. And anyway, she was a super kid. So I have these if people are interested in borrowing for a little while.
Anyone that hasn't shared that would like to say something before we close? Ask. Okay, Arlene, do you have a closing statement or anything?
Well, I don't, except to remind you that Eric somehow got the words transcribed to that one meditation and we did. There's another song that we're going to listen to when we get done. Alana Morissette sings it, and she visited the reservation, I think, in New Mexico, and learned a lot of stuff and came back and made this song, and it's a beautiful song. I hope you like it. And Eric, I think, has the words to that too. So you can ask him or you can ask me, because he's shared that with me and I have it if anybody wants it. I don't know if Cheryl I might just send it to Cheryl and you can ask her for it if you want to.
I'll send it. I'll put it into the email to Cheryl, and we'll just put it in the emails that goes around.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That'll be good. And that meditation is the one that I like the best. And the Crow women singing that song, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. I remember singing that outside, on the ground before we get into the sweat lodge, and I loved that too. So that was a dance that we did more than it was a song that we sang, you know what I mean?
Well, thank you for sharing your experience and your knowledge and all that you have.
You betcha. Thank you, because it's rich for me and it just feels good to share with you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, as you mentioned, we do have our next song. It's called Utopia. So we'll all be silenced for this, so sing out. So this is our opportunity. You can unmute yourself and greet each other with namaste. Namaste, 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 namaste. Here again, one of those words that not everybody would know the meaning of, and I think it means a little bit different to some people, but the one I anchor into is I greet the God in you, spirit within you, recognizing that. So, namaste. And just in conclusion, financial gifts can be sent to the church, either to the post office box address by check or a credit card on the website, my-alc.com. And we appreciate not only financial gifts, but all the service and the presence of each person that makes this church, this spiritual community actual. Thank you. Yeah.